Well, today I get to start another project, another Fendt tractor, Fendt 926. I got some work to do on the front end. I've got a oil seal that went out, and that's on the planetary on the front axle. So we're gonna tear into that. I got my parts. I think I have all the parts I need, but you just never know. But that's what we're gonna start on today. See how that goes. I have the planetary split, the outside cover coming off that has there's four gears around here. In order to pull this hub off, there's a snap ring right here on the end of the shaft, and that keeps everything together. I've got that pulled off right now. This gear can come off. That way that shaft can go straight through there, or when we pull the hub off this way. This cover, there's just two bolts, one right here and then one on the opposite side down here, that you take those two out. Then there's just a rubber O-ring up here, and that whole cover comes off where the planetary is. Right here is what the planetaries look like. This shaft is just going right in the center like that. So next bit will be to pull the kingpins out and pull that whole hub off. The kingpin removal didn't go so good. Apparently I needed a go-go gadget giant hammer, but no, all kidding aside, it didn't go that great. But I did prevail. There's two kingpins. Of course, there's one on the top and one on the bottom. This cover right here is the one for the top. The whole mud flap fender gets mounted to that bracket. So this is a large bracket on the top side. On the bottom side is the one that I had the most problem with. They have this is the retainer that keeps the kingpin in place, and that thing was really hard to get off, because I'll show you on the top one. It's a snug fit. You know, they don't want that thing moving, so it fits on there. It fits on there pretty tight. Well, on the bottom side, it just got a little bit of corrosion. Didn't want to come off. Once I got that off, then you got to be able to get the kingpin out. Here's what the kingpin looks like, and you can see the rust on that. That's up in there on the bottom side like this. Really, it's really a tight fit. Obviously, things need to be tight. So what I did is I just made up a ring like this, set that over, basically made a little puller, took a piece of 3" by 1/2" flat stock, laid that on there, took a bolt down through there like that, tightened that in, and then I just started hitting around the outside of that casting, and then hitting on this plate. So I'd wrap on that, tighten it just a little bit, wrap on it, tighten a little bit, wrap on it, and it eventually just worked its way out. So that came out pretty good. On the top side here, around here, there is some washers, different sizes of washers to get that spacing right. So make sure you understand how many are in there and get them all back in there. But I'm gonna want to clean these up because they're pretty rusty. So we get that back so that tension's right on the kingpin. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull that off and see how it goes from there. Okay, to remove the ring gear, there's 10 12mm bolts around there. Take those off. Those are Loctited in. Take those out. Then you're going to need 8mm coarse thread, and they thread into here, and then that'll help press that ring gear off of there. Should just come right off like that. And then inside here, there is a snap ring and a washer that's got to get removed. And then once those are removed, this whole hub assembly will come off of this axle here. Once you get that seal out, there's a snap ring in behind there that holds that bearing in place. Pull that snap ring out, and then that bearing should come out like clockwork. So it did come out like clockwork. As soon as that snap ring is out of there, it came right off. You can see in there. So this was a seal that was bad, and I'm just going to replace that bearing anyway, because I can and buy the parts, I guess. The tractor has 9,000 hours on it, so I'm not too worried. The bearing did have some play in it. I don't think that's probably why the seal went out. I don't know, don't care. New bearings going in. Okay, also on the axle, I'm going to also replace that seal, and then in there further is a bushing, and I'm going to replace that bushing as well, and also the O-ring around the planetary here that seals up that outer side of the planetary. Well, I did get the seals out. The seals and that bushing on the axle fought me. They were a bugger getting out. Right in there you can see the seal. I got the new one put in and the new bushing put in, but they didn't want to come out. They're a great big thick, you can see how I made a mess out of that thing. That's the old seal. That's a pretty good size oil seal coming out of there. But I made up a little shark tooth kind of there to get in there behind that on my slide hammer, and was able to rip them out that way. So I got the seal back in there, the bushing back in, and on the planetary I got the seal in and the bearing in. So that's going to be it for tonight. I'm going to wrap it up and throw her back together in the morning. See ya. Okay, I have the housing back in the axle. I didn't know how it was going to go with the stub shaft going into the outer housing here. There's of course I've got to go into a seal in here, and I thought it might be easiest to get that shaft to go into that seal on the bench and then slide the whole assembly into the axle, and that went really well. And then that way I was able to get the snap ring and the washer on this side, and I knew it was in place before it slid in. It did slide into that axle very well, so I assembled that stub shaft into the housing before it went into the axle. Ring gear bolts, they torque to 125 Newton meters or 93 foot-pounds. Once the planetary housing is back into place, then you got to put the kingpins back in, obviously. But there's a bearing pocket down in here that those bearings are going to drop into. Kind of like that. Just like that. And then the kingpin then will just drop in there like that. Get the camera right. Drop the kingpin in there like that. That'll line everything up. On the top, I did have these shim washers that will go on the top to get the tension right on the joints itself. So, well, that puts a wrap on this project. Can't think of anything else. Don't forget to put oil in it. I got oil in mine. I double checked. But yeah, if you like this, like and subscribe. I wouldn't mind that if you did that for me. And adios!